Hi, kids.
Hey!
Welcome to another episode of Bad Pop Song, the show where we take you on a magic carpet ride into my beautiful carnival candy-like universe of musical cringe, movie reviews, critique, discussion, and such like.
Lots of colors and wonderful smells and all kinds of things to tickle your senses.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I of course am Bo. Here with you is Dan, your co-host.
Yo, my name is Dan, and I'm here to tell you about badpopsong.com. You need to go check out this website if you are a big fan of Bo. Everything is Bo there, from previous episodes of this very show, music videos that he has produced and sang in, and wonderful stuff, articles, things that he's written about other films, and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
Just go check it out. Indulge in the Bo.
Yes. And did you mention the YouTube?
No, I have not mentioned YouTube.
If you're watching, in the event you're watching us on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
Yeah, got some buttons on there you should just press.
Yes. So we are doing yet again another movie discussion episode. And it is in the brilliant, it is a discussion of the brilliant sequel to the brilliant 28 Days Later, which came out in 2002. We will be discussing 28 Years Later. So the third of the three films. Right. Although it's weird, I think this is going to be the first of a trilogy.
Right, that's what I've heard.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, considering that the previous two films really, other than just being set in the same world, I if I remember correctly, there's very little carryover from one movie to the next, even with this new one.
Yes, no, there's very little other than it is about the same event that took place. It is it is the many years later after the event that took place of the film in 2002. No, there are really no characters that are connected with the original characters of that first film. Right. So
it's kind of like the George Romero of the Dead or whatever sort of films.
Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Dawn of the Dead is actually the George Romero is the mastermind of zombie horror.
Which were not called zombies in the first film.
Right. Yeah. I guess we all just came up with that, right?
Yeah. And of course, the 28 Days Later was the impetus of the fast zombie, right?
Yes, the fast zombie, the zombie on steroids.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is just infinitely more creepy.
Yeah. 28 years later, there's actual, like, they've evolved even more.
Ooh.
Yeah. You know, because of course the virus that they are infected with, I guess that it was there's also that whole sort of in the what was topical about 28 Days Later is of course the spreading of viruses, outbreak. You know, it's just and just not being very just very cavalier about the whole thing, and not knowing what can happen, you know. Because there were like these animal activists, you know, who were enraged over like how these monkeys were being treated, but then the monkeys attacked them, and that's what started the whole virus, you know. So, but yeah, the virus is just sort of they initially like spit up blood, and then they become very what did you say earlier? The what's fast about them? What's
just that they're aggressive, or I don't know. What did I say?
You said this, that it was
They're fast zombies.
Yeah, with the starting of the fast zombies.
Yeah.
Yes. But then this 28 years later, they've actually morphed into ones that are alpha zombies, which
so sort of like the
they're faster,
okay,
and they're smarter. Yeah, and they're also like completely naked.
Oh.
And they're slightly ripped too. You know, they're slightly like they're very like diesel and pumped. But then there's ones that evolve into like these sloth like kind of crawly worm eating, you know, fat types, you know, who are equally dangerous but just not as fast because they're fat and they crawl and they eat worms. So
easier to escape, but if they get their hands on you, you're done for.
Yes.
All right, then. That's weird. So does that mean that the zombies of the 28 whatever later are they like a society unto themselves? Are they like breeding, or is it still just people are being infected and converting into these?
Oh, you mean 28 years later? This current film? Yes. No, that's what it is. They're still they're still just infecting people.
Okay.
In fact, they've quarantined the mainland of England.
Right.
And so it's and then everyone else, all the survivors are just kind of fend for themselves. so many of them that have survived have found their way off the mainland and are on these individual islands in the British Isles.
Okay.
Starting their own communities. And then they also go off and hunt and kill these zombies.
Okay.
You know,
gotta have something fun to do.
Yeah, because so it's less of them that are finding their way to the island, you know. But yeah, that's where we are 28 years later. And it's even a bit into the future.
Yeah.
Because
because I guess the first film was set in the year that it was released.
Yes.
Or somewhere around
Yes.
So interesting. A completely different future if something had changed back in the aughts. So the original film, 28 Days, has the distinction in my brain as being the most anxiety-inducing film I had ever seen.
Oh, so you had seen it?
I have seen it.
Oh.
I was
color me impressed.
I was basically given I was given the DVD by a coworker who said, you must watch this. And so I was like, okay, I'll take it home. I'll watch it over the weekend or whatever. I got halfway through the film and I was so invested in all of the characters and their plights, and I could just tell that something bad was going to happen, and only like a few of them were going to make it. So I was like, okay, put it on pause, and then came back to it the next day. I've never done that with a film. No other film has affected me anxiety wise in that way.
It is a very anxiety inducing film. Yes.
It just leaves you on edge for the entire show. I've not seen 28 Weeks. Didn't necessarily feel like I needed to, but if somebody says, hey, you must watch it and hands me a DVD, then I guess I'll watch it. I don't know. But yeah, especially since 28 Weeks was, you know, none of the same actors or characters or anything like that. So I was like, oh, that's a weird take on it. And of course, 28 years now. So is 28 years along the same lines as just this anxiety dripping situational?
It is.
Okay.
It is. It is moment by moment.
You're not everybody is going to make it through the entire film.
Yes. So as far as that being continuing on the anxiety inducing element. Yes, you are correct.
All right.
Yes, because it is very moment by moment, edge of your seat.
So who are we following in this film? I mean,
well, can we go back and talk about 28 Days Later?
Yeah, absolutely.
You had to bring it up, and the fact that you've actually seen it makes me want to talk about it a little bit. It introduced me to a lot of amazing actors. Cillian Murphy, very up and coming back then.
Oh yeah.
By the way, is the executive producer of 28 Years Later.
Rumor has it he's going to show up maybe in the third film of this new trilogy.
Yes. This movie introduced me to Naomi Harris, who, she's very famous as one of the agents in the Bond films. With Daniel Craig. She has an Academy Award. She earned an Academy Award nomination for Moonlight. And so, just kind of following her career, me following her career since then has been such a joy for me, because I've always found her on-screen presence very powerful. She's just, again, she plays very like motivated, strong-willed characters, like she did in 28 Days Later.
Right.
Because she was the one who was teaching him, we got to move, we got to bash, we got to stab, and then we got to move.
Yep.
And we can't stop moving. And then if we find time to eat, then we eat, and then we just keep moving. It's like she pretty much just taught him how to survive.
Right.
And that in itself is a great character for that movie. But yes, you're right. You get very attached to those characters, particularly like the Brendan Gleeson character and his daughter, the ones that were living in the high rise. And then, eventually what happens to him. And it's so sad, because
that was what I was the most concerned about. Actually, was them, because it was the halfway point is when they make it to the military base or something like that. And as they were driving in, I was like, oh, this shit is going to hit the fan here. Not all of them are going to make it out of there. So
it was.
But yeah, and I think the beauty of that film too is the fact that you are seeing it through the eyes of Cillian Murphy, who he was in a coma or something to that effect while all this was happening. Right?
Yes, yeah, and he woke up. Yeah. So like the abandoned hospital.
Right. So you're seeing everything and experience everything through his eyes. So you are learning along with him about everything that has happened and how it all works. So that's a brilliant device that is very useful in that situation. Who knows if they have something like that in the next film, but we'll see. Eventually, but you want to talk still more about 28 Days.
No, I think I'm done. I think I said everything I wanted to say. I just wanted to briefly discuss it with you, because you said you'd seen it. And when you say something like, I've seen something you've seen, of course, I'm going to be like, So
it is a brilliant film. I think it was just fabulous, and I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah, well, Danny Boyle makes brilliant films. Danny Boyle, once again, made this film. Once again, written by Alex Garland. So you can't really go wrong with these two guys.
Yeah.
And then Alex Garland himself is making quite a name as a director. He's becoming a very renowned director. With his own film, starting with Ex Machina, and he did Annihilation with Natalie Portman. He most recently, Warfare, and before that, Civil War. He's definitely, and he's also like, Alex Garland is making films that are very, very relevant to our times, to our era. So
interesting.
And they're not light, they're not easy films. Nope. They're not fun to absorb. They're very they shake you up. And they're
challenging and require you to think.
And he's sending a message, definitely. And he definitely started that with Ex Machina. and the whole robotics, artificial life and that sort of thing. So anyway, I guess we should really get to 28 years later.
Yeah.
So
who are we following this
basically,
time?
I mean,
what's going on?
The only way I can really describe the synopsis of this film is to sort of talk about some of the best scenes in the movie.
Okay.
Which are almost all of them. But I definitely want to talk about the beginning of the film. That the beginning of the film takes you back to 2002 and the outbreak of the initial rage virus.
Okay.
Which is what they called it, the rage virus.
Okay.
So a little kid named Jimmy, and all these other terrified children are in like a living room, and the door is locked behind them, and they're sitting there watching Teletubbies.
Oh God!
To help,
that's scary. To help
sort of comfort them. Right. Well, right. That's exactly it. You're seeing that, and they're showing like a real close up of the television screen too, which I think kind of adds to the tension of the movie. So right there, at the beginning of the film was like tense as shit. So
just drops you in there
because all these kids are terrified because they're trying. They know they are in living this outbreak. So they're there. They're that these children have lost. Probably their parents are out fighting or they've lost their parents or something, but
they've just been assembled here because they have no one else to watch over them.
Yes. So they're in this house and they're all terrified, and then I think that's one of the brilliant things about the scene is because you see how scared they all are. And then they start hearing noises and they start hearing attacks and things like that. And the kids get even more anxious and they're crying and they're screaming. And then, of course, all hell breaks loose.
Of course.
So this kid named Jimmy, he's able to escape. And then he ends up running into this church, and he is talking to the vicar, who I think is his actual father.
Oh, okay.
So he's talking to the vicar, and the vicar is praying because the vicar obviously knows this is end of days, and he's having like one last discussion with him, and he's saying, you have to be brave, this is the end of times. So you're gonna have to be brave, because I think he knows he's gonna get killed. So of course the church is overtaken, and they all attack the vicar, and then the boy just has to run, and that's the end of that scene. And then we fast forward to 28 years later, and the rage virus has actually been eradicated from continental Europe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the British Isles is still quarantined, so it's still bad there.
Right. Yeah, right. They've been able to push it back to the island.
To where it started, I guess. So there's this community off the mainland called Lindisfarne, and it's a tidal island, and it's connected by this causeway. The mainland, they can get to the mainland through a causeway, but only during the day, because after that the tide rises.
Oh,
so
brilliant.
Yes, so that kind of adds to the whole, I mean, that's always cool for a horror movie.
Oh yeah. That's that little element of time. You have to get back before the tide rises.
Right, this is the only way. Right. So there's this whole community of survivors, who are starting, who are maintaining a life, and then again they raise the children to be zombie killers. And
zombie combat is a part of the curriculum now.
And what's very interesting about the scenes where they're training these kids, how to use the bow and arrows and how to fire and things like that. they show footage of actual history. They show footage of like Nazi Germany and other fascist things that were happening in Europe, back in, before and during World War II. Mm-hmm. So, and you see like these young, these young men being recruited and that sort of thing. So I think that was Alex Garland and Danny Boyle's way of tying it all into like, this continually happens, we're always, but yeah, anyway, it's just the history of it's basically just showing military history and young men being trained to do this,
to fight the war started by the older men.
So there's a kid named Spike, and Spike, his parents are Jamie and Isla, and Jamie is one of the scavengers, as you would call them.
Okay.
And he's about to take his son out he's about to take Spike out on his first scavenger hunt.
Oof.
Off of the mainland. And I can't say enough. One of the draws, I mean, I was going to see it anyway, but I think what made me want to see it even more was the fact that Jodie Comer is one of the stars of this film.
Okay.
And she is just this amazing British actress who every role that she's in, she becomes a completely different person.
Okay.
Like if you didn't know it was Jodie Comer, you wouldn't believe it was Jodie Comer. I mean, that's how different she is in every role. And of course, 28 years later is no exception. And she's also one of those actors. And I got to say the same thing about Aaron Taylor Johnson, who plays Jamie, Spike's dad. Also, pretty well established English actor. But just like Jodie Comer, he can do anything.
Okay.
And he's done everything. And both of them, they play Americans. And their American accents are just brilliant. Wait
a minute, like, they're in England. Why are they playing Americans?
No. They've in other roles.
Oh! Yeah. I was about to say.
No, I'm still commenting on their like abilities.
Okay.
But Jodie Comer, though, especially, she is nothing more than exceptional in this film. She gives such a beautiful performance because she has this mysterious illness, and she wakes up and she's almost like having like these violent seizures, almost like what the zombies do. But she's not infected,
right? She's not spitting up blood or anything.
Yeah,
like that, yeah.
Basically, I think she has something that's like cancerous, and because there's no doctors, there's nothing. And
nothing they can do to diagnose it.
And they're not in the mainland or anything like that. So she's basically like house ridden, well, I mean, she goes outside, but she really doesn't go beyond the compounds of the confines of the house,
right?
And the outside vicinity. So she is enraged when she finds out that Spike is being trained to be a scavenger, and so I think there's already sort of that tension between she and her husband because, this is, I think she just sees this as like toxic and,
right.
Not just, I guess no mother wants to see her son become something like that.
Well, yeah.
But I don't know, but most people find it a necessary kind of a thing because,
or they could just get on a boat and go elsewhere.
Well, maybe.
I don't know.
But the movie does a very good job at like establishing that these people are very limited. on what they can do and with the resources and where they can go and stuff like that.
I guess that's part of the whole quarantine is that the quarantine is on the entire British Isles and it's just on the mainland of England proper.
But they're still, it's weird. They all keep like their little secrets. There's something obvious that they are keeping from Spike, from the children in the town.
Something else is going on.
Yeah. I didn't think it has to do with raising them to be like these scavengers, because I guess the whole point is to eradicate.
Right.
Is to kill off all these zombies, because again, they've morphed into alpha zombies and leech like leech or not leech, but yeah, like slothy like ones, so those both are very bad, so but Jodie Comer's performance, I think what is impressive is that she plays this sick woman, and you see her, her head hurts, and you see her episodes, and she seems very sad and pathetic, but you also see her being like this she's still like this protective mother who loves her son. And when you least expect it, she has the most amazing scenes. And I'm just going to go ahead and give some spoilers away. I mean, there's a really cool scene where she takes a zombie and just bashes his head up against the concrete and kills him, knowing that she's in this condition. But when she's in her right mind, she goes into like protective mother mode, and there's also this scene where she births like a zombie mother who is pregnant.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes,
and then Isla, the Jodie Comer character, is very sympathetic to this woman, so she delivers this zombie woman's baby, who happens to be born uninfected. I guess because of the placebo or the placenta or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah, there's
that protects the baby.
I guess so.
Yeah, so of course there's this baby born from and this was one of like the alpha zombies too, like born from an alpha zombie and the baby is uninfected. So there's all that. There's so many surprises, twists and turns, unexpected.
Oh yeah. I mean, if it's anything like the first film, it was basically it was the concept of, Cillian Murphy wakes up 28 days later and all hell's broken loose. Let's watch him survive. He meets other people along the way, and then things change and stuff happens and what have you. So I gather this is along the same lines of the setup is, Jamie taking Spike to his first scavenge, and all hell breaks loose from there.
Yes, because he takes him to the mainland, and and then of course they inevitably, of course, which is the whole point. They've been confronted. Yeah, they're confronted, and they have to kill, and they still have to make their way back to the island. And they do make it back, but it gets to the point. Spike learns some things about his dad and the town, and I don't think they're bad people, but again, they all keep secrets from him. And
there's something shady going on.
Well, he finds out that there is an actual doctor on the island.
Oh.
But nobody talks, everybody just either assumes he builds like these fires, and so Spike's never been able to see it because it's so far in the other, it's actually, I think it is in the mainland.
Okay.
But when you're, and but maybe it is part of the island.
Who knows? Either which way, it's out of reach.
Out of reach. Yeah. No, I think it is in the mainland. But yeah. There, you see this fire like in this rural area of the mainland, and that is the doctor. That is like the general practitioner, who is played by Ray Fiennes, actually. and his name is Dr. Kelson. But everybody thinks like he's this creepy witch doctor because his compound is like a memorial to the dead, to the victims of this plague, and they're just big piles of skull heads, basically.
That would give you the impression that you might be a witch doctor dealing in voodoo or something.
Well, Spike gets kind of fed up with the secrecy, and kind of as good of a dad as Jamie is, Spike learns something about him that he's not happy with. So Spike takes his mother and goes off and hunts for the doctor, so he can find a cure for whatever's wrong with his mother.
Okay,
so that's pretty much that's the
in a nutshell.
Of the film. In a nutshell, yeah. Well,
without giving away the ending or anything like that.
The ending definitely, that there's going to be another film.
Okay,
yeah,
it leaves it
very open.
Okay, yes. Sort of cliffhangery. Okay,
but from the point of his first hunt, after his first hunt, Spike decides to go out on his own.
Okay,
he takes his mother with him, and it's like,
he is truly becoming a man.
Well, he is at least like his quest is basically, though, to find a cure for his mother. So
okay,
but anyway, there you go. 20 years later.
So is the sequel going to have the same characters in it?
I assume so.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess that's why they're calling it a sequel per se, because it is at least continuing the story as opposed to a whole new story in the same universe. So,
well, we are introduced at the very end of the film.
Are you going to give away spoilers?
No. We are no spoilers at all, but we are introduced just at the very, very end of the film. We are introduced to a guy named Jimmy. Jimmy, an adult, the little kid from the beginning of the movie,
was named Jimmy,
who ran who had to flee from the church because his father, the vicar, was
so that's how the intro
was killed by the zombies.
Ties back into it.
Yes, Jimmy himself, and played by the very very good, very up and coming actor Jack O'Connell. Jimmy is this cult leader, and they're all called the Jimmies, and
Jimmy and the Jimmies,
and they're basically zombie killers, and Spike encounters them at the end of the movie, and you just sort of assume that he's gonna join up with them. So that's how the movie ends. But this cult is inspired by Jimmy Savile, if you know who that is.
I did not until a few days ago when I read up on him.
He's a very eccentric, media personality. I think he hosted Top of the Pops at one point in time, and there's been all kinds of there's been like a sexual abuse allegations since his passing.
Right. He was, from what I gather, he was an adored and beloved entertainer and host. Did many different programs, some children's entertainment, I believe, or something to that effect, which would make sense why Jimmy knows about him. It's that Teletubbies thing.
Yes. Yes.
That's the last bit of media that he was familiar with.
Well, they're all dressed like the Jimmies are all dressed like probably the most famous version of Jimmy Savile. Just tracksuits and long blonde hair.
Yeah.
Longish.
But it is. After he passed, it came up that there was hundreds or at least tens of allegations.
Yes.
Of bad acting.
Well, I think I've said all I can say about this.
You enjoyed the film, though? You're excited to see the next version if they ever get around to making it.
Oh, it'll be done for sure.
You think so? Okay.
I mean, especially if Cillian Murphy is the executive producer, I think
he'll make sure it gets done eventually.
Oh yeah, I think he's also basking in all his Christopher Nolan money too.
This is true.
And he's
speaking of darlings,
he's gonna be, and he's in even higher demand now because he's fresh off of he's a recent Oscar winner, so for Oppenheimer. So
that's right.
If if he wasn't already, just completely just in the stratosphere, I mean that Oppenheimer and that Oscar win definitely just made his, it was stratospheric for his career.
Nice.
So,
it's good to hear.
Yeah.
So what rating are you going to give this film?
Oh, it's a 4.5.
4.5. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 4.5.
Still some room for improvement, but otherwise a very enjoyable edge of your seat thriller, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's got everything a horror enthusiast would love, and everything a goremonger would just love. I mean, this movie is bloody and violent and gruesome
and shot on iPhones.
Yes. Yeah. Much of the fight scenes were intentionally made. They kind of made to look kind of cheap and gritty looking.
I remember the original 28 Days having that sort of
yes, and
quality
I think that's something that's innovative about that first film too.
Yeah,
it's kind of the start of using that technique to sort of
aged electronic media or something to that effect.
Definitely.
How's that look? So cool. 4.5 stars. Then, are you playing this at your film festival?
Oh, I am, definitely.
And when?
I think I would give this prime time.
Oh, okay.
And I would also give it a Midnight Madness.
Oh, okay. You're going to do the double feature thing again. All right.
So yeah, so if
you have so many films playing in
if people who keep normal hours want to see it at 8:00, that's great. And then for the crazy horror cult enthusiasts want to see it at midnight, it's there for them.
That's cool that it has that broad enough appeal that it could appeal to both audiences. So.
Well, yeah, and then as far as it's a cult. I mean, it's a franchise, so there's that establishes its cult following right there,
right?
And the whole it fits in the whole zombie horror genre. So, I mean, it covers all bases. So
it appeals to everyone.
Yes,
take your kids, take your cat, go see the film.
Take your cat.
Yeah, why not? It appeals to everybody. Yeah, even the cats will get an enjoyment out of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Bring the parakeet.
Zombie outbreak. Oh, no. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think I've said all I've needed to say.
Awesome. Cool to hear that they're still churning out good 28x later films. Thanks for watching this episode of Bad Pop Song. Remember to check out our website, badpopsong.com. Get the latest episodes, links to songs and films and the nonsense that we talk about here, and all kinds of other fun Bow things. And also be sure to like and subscribe to Bad Pop Song on YouTube. If you're not there, then go over there and click that little button. I'm assuming it still is a thumbs up. I don't know.
Yes.
Tune in next time when Bo continues to invite us into his wonderful, magical, bubblegummy world of all things media, music, and cringy stuff. Till then, I'm Dan.
I'm Bo.
Have fun.
Stay groovy.
Woo!